What's up, people? Hold on. Okay. What up, people? I am back for another video. Today, we are reviewing a movie called The Prowler. This is an unknown slasher that came out, like, in 1981. This came out, like, after, like, if you remember, like, post-Halloween. That first Halloween movie, obviously got the first Friday the 13th. Then that same year, 81, was like slasher like heaven. The amount of slashes that came out even in 80, but 81 especially. I mean, Halloween 2, Friday the 13th Part 2, this film. I think My Bloody Valentine was 81, the original. I think The Burning, I think, was also 81. Like, there was a bunch that year. Like, and it made sense because it was a popular. But this one to me was one I watched, I think, 2 years ago for the first time. And I gotta say, it's not a bad movie. Tom Savini did a lot of the blood effects for the film. But for me, everything else, it's just the leads aren't that great. I almost feel like I'm watching it. There was no point of having it a dance. Because I was, like, at least prom night, you had a big, like, kill scene at the prom. Right? A couple kills. You have the main chase scene, but then there was obviously the big decapitation scene during the dance. In this, I feel like the dance was just the background. It was and I get it. It was part of his backstory. Who I gotta look for the killer's name because they don't really give the killer a name. It's I'm trying to look. See if he has a fucking name. So you just call it the Prowler. We'll just call him that. The problem with the Prowler is fundamentally the killer doesn't have a character. Like, and what I mean is Michael and Jason had characters in the sense of there was something about them. There was something unique about them. Even like one-off slashers like Cropsy from The Burning was memorable. The killer in this, I think the kills are memorable. There's a scene where he stabs a dude in the head and like the knife goes through his head and it's like peeking out and then like his eyes go white. That looked good. A lot of good Tom Savini effects. So that's really what carries this film is the kill. But everything else, I think the origin's not that great. Like, I guess his girlfriend broke up with him and during graduation she ended up about to hook up with a guy, then he comes and kills her and then just it jumps to it has also is a random jump. I'm gonna be real too. I don't think there's a lot of atmosphere for this film. There's some, but I think that's what holds it back. Is I just think, and also the killer just isn't unique looking. He's just an army guy. He's essentially an army guy with a couple of cool weapons. There are some really good kills, like especially in the middle of the film, when during the graduation, and Pam, who's the main lead of the film, is running the dance after the murders, and she, is the first. It's kind of like My Bloody Valentine, where like the first celebrating Valentine's Day since the murders. So it's kind of something like that, and that's really it. She falls in love with a sheriff, Deputy Mark, who's like he's the love interest. He does eventually get killed later in the film. The problem is there's just not a lot of characters in the film, like. I feel like fundamentally the issue with this film, you could clearly tell not a lot of thought was, at least with some of the other slashers that came out around this same time, there was still thought put into it. I don't really feel like there was really thought put into this one. This one really encapsulates. They just wanted to do it because they wanted to capitalize off the slasher craze that was happening at the time. And it really feels like that. Because Tom Savini, the effects are great, but I really feel like that's it. The final act, which is arguably, for me, is what should be the best part of a slasher. Like, some of the best slashers, obviously Halloween. As much as I don't like the original Friday the 13th as a film, I do think the final act's still really good. I mean, obviously Scream. A lot of the best slashers have a great final act. You know, you get like a final chase scene and then slash confrontation with the killer. You don't really get that though. When Pam kills the Prowler, he like blows his head off with a shotgun, which I'll admit that was pretty brutal. But then it awkwardly ends where she hallucinates finding one of her friends, and he wakes up, and it's a weird ending. I don't know if they were trying to do a sequel to. I don't know what they were going for. It was a weird, awkward end of the film. It was like they needed a one last scare, and I was like, you didn't need that. I didn't get that is a point of Slash. They even make that joke and Scream, but I feel like this was one they didn't really need it. You could have just had a cold ending. They beat the bad guy, film ends, because. Or if you're gonna do a jump scare, just do one with where she thinks, she thinks he's attacking her. That at least would make more sense as a sequence versus imagining one of the bodies just attacking her. That's weird. I'm like, this film up until this point isn't supernatural. Like, it's not like he takes gunshots or anything. Like, he's a regular guy, pretty much. It's just he hadn't done murders for a couple, for like 20-something years. Because it was around like World War II when the graduation party was happening. So aside from that, the film is alright. I think it's a decent slasher. I can watch it. I'm not going to mostly go on my way to watch it, but if it's on, I'll watch it. If I need to waste an hour and a half. Like I said, there's some solid kills in this film. So, if I were to rate it out of 10... like a 6.5, like around there, 6.5. I think I'll give it, because those Tom Savini effects are very well done. Like, probably my favorite kill is the knife one. That's probably the kill one. I think this film is that one. So it's just the killer. I think they could have made a bit more unique, even if he's just a one-off, like My Bloody Valentine. Even though the remake exists, but that's a remake. Those are technically to me just two one-off stories. Where the burning Cropsey, the miner from My Bloody Valentine. Those killers are memorable, even though they're only really one fucking film. They never got a sequel, or they never got built up on. Even the killer in the first Prom Night, because Prom Night 2 has nothing to do with Prom Night 1 at all. The Prom Night sequels go a weird direction before you get the remake. So really, there's only the one Prom Night we actually know, is the one with Jamie Lee Curtis, essentially is a one-off film. But even the killer in that, it's just a guy in a burglar outfit, basically, is more memorable than the killer in this. The killer in this is just, he doesn't look scary. Like, it's more of his weapons. And I don't know. You clearly could tell they just wanted to capitalize on the slasher craze. You could tell that this film is made for that. Yes, I'm not saying Friday the 13th was even was it Sean S. Cunningham who basically said, we're going to rip off Halloween. But I still feel like that first Friday the 13th still felt like its own film. And especially by part 2, they definitely make it their own film. I feel like this one is just, it's another slasher from that time period. I think The Burning's a better film than this, I'm going to say it. It's not horrible. I would only say watch it if you're really into slashers. If you've just not seen it, check this out. It's very short, not a long movie, but it could have been better, So, anyways, so tomorrow, Batman Begins review, which I cannot, man, that's gonna be so fun to fucking review. Batman Begins is my favorite Batman film. It is so fucking good. The score, it is my favorite origin story. I think it is the perfect origin story. Even though that first Spider-Man is a close second, this one is a really great origin. I just love the build-up to it. I think to me, this is the most comic book feeling movie of the three. I think Dark Knight's probably a better film, but I would say definitely as a CBM, Batman Begins hits. It has the best Gotham of the three films too, and of the three, because I'm going to be honest, especially in subsequent rewatches, and I'm going to more mention this when we get to the Nolan sequels like Night and definitely by Rises. I'm going to be real. I don't think Bale's Batman ages well as Batman. I think his Bruce Wayne is great, but his Batman, besides in Begins, like the sequels, he doesn't feel like Batman to me. He's like an afterthought. And the fighting, too, just does not age well. And I know I have my Batfleck bias where you just see that, like the fight scenes in that, and yeah. And I think too why it's just I do prefer Batman having a little bit of that fantasy element where whatever you think of Zack Snyder, I think he at least understood you got to have that element for Batman. Versus, I get what Nolan was doing. I think you can do. I think there's a way you can ground it, but still have it be that fantasy element because looks like what Matt Reeves is doing is literally just gonna do the same fucking shit. It's like, okay, we're great. We're gonna do another grounded Batman. Okay, good job. We've already done that with the Nolan trilogy, but at least that was Nolan. He's put his own stamp on it. I really what I'm fearing with the Batman, as much as I'm liking the Penguin show right now, because I didn't like the Batman, and I'm fearing with the Batman too. It's just gonna be now. I'm really thinking it's just gonna be Nolan light. It's gonna try to be Nolan trilogy light, and I just don't think that's gonna work. I like the Nolan films, but I don't trying to just do that style again. Where I think you could do both. Maybe do another Batman movie where it's both, where it leans into that fantasy element. Like Zack Snyder's Batman is a world with Superman, Wonder Woman. So that's why they have to make him look like he fits into that world. He's not going to be skinny, of course. He's going to have a lot more like gadgets that you're not going to see in the Nolan trilogy. So but anyway, that's a little diatribe. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. But yeah, but Batman Begins is going to be a fun watch. And I love whatever I think of the race swap of Rage. I really like Liam Neeson as Rage. I do like that final confrontation and just the build up. It's just a good film. So we'll be talking about that tomorrow. So, anyways, let's get to the Prowler. So the movie starts. It's March 12th, 1944. Rosemary, who I guess is the girlfriend of the Prowler's actual identity. He's like a soldier from World War II. And she's on a graduation dance. She goes to the graduation dance at her high school. Is out with her new boyfriend, and they go kind of off, obviously, like that horror show, go off to have sex. And they're about to. And then they get killed by the Prowler. Who, I'll admit, this opening kill is pretty brutal. Like, he just comes in and just impales him with a pitchfork. Very much like kind of similar, if you remember what Jason did in part 2. So kind of like similar to that kind of kill. Which I'll admit, the kills are what makes this film. I will say that. Like, because the music's okay. It's not horrible, but it's not... You could tell, it's not like John Carpenter. Even like the people who did the Friday the 3rd. Because I think... One of the things I think with Friday the 13th we don't talk about really is the score. I think the Friday the 3rd, not just the just those like the music from those like first like 4, 5 to 6 films. Those scores were great. I like that main score, like always that title score that would always play. Even like some of the music that would play during the kills. I think with slashes you do need that score, man. Scream. That's what. Well, I love Scream, but even Scream, that's one thing I've always felt like Scream kind of lacked was a great score. Like, Red Right Hand's good, and there is some good, like, music, but there's not great, like, atmospheric music. Like, obviously, Halloween's the king of it, but, like, Nightmare on Elm Street. I love the main Nightmare on Elm Street theme. I think that's another really great one. And I just feel like this one, just the score, it's not terrible, but it's not atmospheric enough for me. It's okay. But, like, the kills are really what carries it. So, like, this opening kill was pretty brutal. So, we then just jumped to 1980. Pam McDonald, who's the main character, is doing a dance. And we meet Sheriff, or Deputy Mark, Lisa, Sherry. I'm trying to think there's other characters. So, then they go to, I think, the movie. I will say the movie is paced well. That's one thing I love about these 80s slashers. They were not long. Like, they knew how to pace them for the most part. Because, like, you really, then we just kind of jumped to the dance, which the dance is just the background. And I think that was, like, going to, like, even the Prom Night remake is one of my issues. I feel like the prom is, like, the background. There's just, like, if you're going to have a big prom, there should be some kind of murder scene there, and they didn't. There was murders around the prom. It was kind of the same deal, like, where most of the murders, like, a bulk of them, are in Pam's dorm. You know, like, obviously Lisa's boyfriend, and then Lisa gets killed in the shower when Pam leaves for the dance. Which, oh man, the kill was pretty brutal. Like, it was especially, and that's gonna probably be the thumbnail for the video, is gonna be Carl. It's gonna probably be his kill. I'm gonna probably make that the thumbnail for the video. It really is pretty brutal. Like, especially when his eyes just go white. It's like, holy shit, I've never seen that. Like, Tom Savini really put his heart out into this. So I think that is why I can kind of give this movie a pass. Like, I still think it's a watchable slasher. It's not the greatest. Like, the Prowler to me is not a unique looking killer. He just isn't. It's just a guy in an army outfit. You know? Which, it's like, I do like the mystery of you don't know who it is, really. His background doesn't matter. He's just doing the killings, which I sometimes like. I like just sometimes the killings just happen. You don't fucking know shit about the killer. You don't always need to know the motive of the killer, which I'm okay with that, And then, so Lisa starts dancing with Mark, and then, Pam gets jet, which the scene's kind of contrived. It was a forced reason so we can have her go back to it essentially was just this way so you can have her go back to her dorm. That was it, because she got mad. I guess she saw Mark, and it really doesn't make sense, because she just started dancing with him, and it's not like they were a couple. Granted, they were clearly having a thing for each other, but it was written weird. You couldn't just have some other reason she had to leave instead of forcing, like, it was random. Especially because Lisa's like her friend. She knows she likes him, so why would she do that? So out of nowhere, just so you could have her leave. Okay, whatever. She goes to, she returns to dorm to change because something happens. He accidentally gets, he spills like a drink on her. She then goes back to her dorm. She changes, and then we get a chase scene between the Prowler and her. Which, all of it, the chase scene's pretty well done. I like the lighting. It's just really bright, but it's still kind of creepy. It does feel very small. The way you shoot it, it does feel like a small-ass hallway, so it's like, you are worried, this killer get her. She manages to make her way out. Then the neighbor, because there's a scene where one of them, her friends, like, flashes him. It's like a creepy neighbor who stares at them all the time. He then grabs her, which, to me, this scene makes no sense. I don't know if he's tied to the Prowler, and that's why, but they don't explain it. It's random. He just randomly grabs her out of nowhere. I don't know why. I get it. Like, you could have just had her foot get caught on something instead of he just grabs her out of nowhere. Because at least you're going to do something like that. That is one thing I'm like, okay, you got to explain that. Why is he like a accomplice? Does he know the Prowler? Does he know who he is? No, there's no scene where he warns. It's nothing like that. He just grabs her out of nowhere. Okay, she manages to let go, and then she runs into Mark. He investigates. Then basically he's gone. And then they investigate. They investigate Major's up. And then that's when they find out the story of what happened to Rosemary's Major's daughter. I don't know if that's why he's beholding the legend, but they gotta explain that better. That was just out of nowhere. Lisa gets killed then. And then Paul, Lisa's boy, which is the other problem. I just thought of why is Lisa dancing with Mark when she knows she likes, but she also has a boyfriend of her own. That was weird. It was such a contrived, even more contrived reason to have her leave. You could have still did it. He accidentally spills a drink on her, and just have that be the reason, but whatever. So the the kills are really what carries this film. I'm gonna keep saying that because it is just it's not boring, but it's not as eventful until you get to the final act. Um, so they find the open grave. So they go to the graveyard. They find an open grave. Um, so they initially found, like, I guess the cops found like another because he gets in contact with another the state police, and they told him that they caught some other prowler. So turns out that yeah, it's the same guy. So basically, Mark gets attacked. And I think this is where he gets killed, and then Otto shoots him, and then he shoots. Then he gets wakes up from the shot. So he does somewhat tank. I forgot this scene. He does take a shot, but he then manages. Pam basically kind of gets a hold. Look, he pins her to the wall. He unmasks her. So Sheriff Fraser's the I forgot. Yeah, the sheriff's revealed to be the prowler, and then he manages to kill Sheriff Fraser, which they don't really explain. I guess Sheriff Fraser's the the legend. Yeah, so he gets killed, and then that's kind of it because. And then Carl, for some reason, comes alive, but then it's a hallucination. But it's a weird way to force a last scare. That's the problem with this movie. There's just some stuff I'm like, you could have done more work with, because there was a bunch of slashes they could have came out the same time that they could have picked from, and I felt like they were lazy in some ways. The killer, in my opinion, the reveal, they don't really explain why Fraser went mad and started killing people. It's just, oh, he's the killer. End of story. I think, like I said, the kills really carry this movie. Like, I think that's the strongest. Pam's not. She's not terrible. I think she's serviceable. I think that's the word I'm thinking of. She's serviceable as a final girl, I guess. But she's not. She does not stand out at all. Even like Chris Higgins and some of the other chicks from the Friday the 13th film stand out more as final girls than her. For me, like I said, she's serviceable. She's fine. Like, she did her job. So, but yeah, Mark is just there. A lot of the other characters are just there. But yeah, solid kills though. Tom Savini did a great job with the kills. I just think the story they could have did a bit more better with and tightened some areas for sure. So overall, I'd give this film a 6. I'm gonna go with a 6. I did give it a 6.5, but I think if I'm being objective, it's 6. It's still a solid slasher. It's not the worst thing in the world. Has some really good kills, but if that's all you got, I don't know if I can give you anything higher than a 6, if I'm being honest. You got to have something there a little bit more, and I just don't feel like this one did. I think the killer just didn't stand out enough. Yeah, he's the Prowler, but like they could have did more with his look. You know, even if they wanted to go with like the killer army guy look, they could have did more with it instead of. I felt like they went a little basic. That's why I was saying clearly this was made to capitalize off the slasher craze, but I didn't feel like they put enough work, and they probably saw it as just easy money. I really believe that. I could believe the people who made this movie thought they saw it as a quick, cheap, easy, quick way to make money. That's all they probably did it for. So that's probably why they didn't put much thought into the costume, really into the story. They just like get Tom Savini, let him do the effects, and that should be enough for the film. And you know, Friday the 13th, but even with Friday the 13th, there's still a little bit of an edge with some of the characters. I felt like with the characters in this one, just fundamentally just were just there. At least with some of those early Friday the 13th movies, I at least felt like the characters weren't just there. They actually had a little bit of character, especially not like just the lead, but even like some of the other characters. Like there's something there about them. Like, you know, they're not the best characters, but there's something there. Whereas I feel like the characters in this, aside from Pam and maybe Mark, everyone else was just kind of there. So overall, it's a 6 out of 10. Not the worst slasher in the world, but it's definitely not the best, even of that year for sure. But anyway, I like I said, I think if you're a slasher fan, it's worth checking out. It's not the worst thing in the world. You might see some just solid kills and just watch for that. It's not a long film. It's only like an hour and a half or hour and 20, something like that. So it's not long at all. So, but anyway, Batman Begins tomorrow. Wednesday we'll be doing Pure Luck. Thursday I'm thinking I'm going to be doing The Substance. So a lot of horror this week besides Wednesday, which I think Pure Luck's like more of a comedy. But yeah, and Batman Begins. Pretty much a lot of this week's gonna be a lot of horror. Because today I'm doing this one. And obviously I just did Terrifier last night. And then I'm doing Terrifier 2 this week. And then I'm doing The Substance. I'm planning on doing it Thursday. And then Terrifier 2 I'm planning on doing Friday. So, but anyways, I'm going to get ready to wrap it here. Yeah. In a couple of weeks, I'll announce this now. I will be doing the first of my Halloween, the David Gordon Green Halloween trilogy rewrites. I'll be starting it the week of October 14th. So not next Monday, but the Monday. I don't think I'm going to be doing on Monday, but that week. I haven't picked a day yet. I might do it Monday. I don't know. We'll see. Because then the last one, Halloween Ends, should coincide with around the time of Halloween. And the week of Halloween. So, yeah. So I'll be doing those soon. I just finished the script for, I did a mini script for the 2018 one, what I want to do with it. I'm going to start kills here pretty soon. So, anyways, get ready to wrap it here. Wednesday, I will also be doing, for Pin Down Podcast, we will be doing, recording our thoughts on really trash AEW Dynamite. So we'll be recording that and stuff. So that should be released. And then we'll probably doing Bad Blood predictions. And then, because Saturday, there's not going to be a stream like we normally do, because we don't do streams on the days of pay-per-views. So, but subscribe to Pin Down Podcast. We just recently talked about the Vince doc. I want to show this one again, just because I felt like it was a really good discussion. So check out our discussion with Lethal Lightning about the Vince doc. Other than that, I am calling it here.